All right, everybody, thanks for joining. We're going to go ahead and get started today with the webinar. I'm going to go ahead and cover a few bases, though, before we get started. First of all, just know that we'll send you a recording of this afterwards. We'll also be posting this to YouTube as well, so we should have plenty of access to it. Also, throughout the webinar, feel free to submit your questions as we go along. We're going to do a live Q&A at the end. We're going to cover as many of these as we can. And if you don't mind, please close any distractions so that you can catch all the material we throw at you today. I'm going to introduce everybody. First of all, this is me. I'm Brandon Spake. I'm the Wizard of Main Street. They call me here at Servosity. This is Jeff Moore. He's our lead support engineer or sorcerer at Servosity, and he's going to be doing the Q&A today. And this is Damian Stevens, our Chief Digital Alchemist, also the CEO, and he'll be our main presenter today. So the main agenda today, we've just got a few things going on. First of all, we're going to talk about why we built this for you. We're going to cover all the new features that we're recently rolling out, and going to talk about some good practices for you. And we're going to do a live demo and a Q&A after that. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Damian.
Awesome. Thanks, Brandon. I appreciate that. Thank you all for making the time to attend. I know your time's super valuable. So I want to start with a little background on Servosity. Most of you know, some of you may not, but you know, the genesis of Servosity was I was part of an early MSP before anybody called it managed services or managed service provider, and we really struggled with backup and DR. I tried every product in the market myself at that time, and it was either overpriced, didn't work, or sometimes both. And that led us to create Servosity in 2005. And it was a side project to a company that developed that built web apps and ran mission critical 24/7 systems. So we really needed the ability to have disaster recovery or business continuity. So we solved it for ourselves and realized that MSPs really found this valuable. So in 2010, we launched Servosity, hired the first employee, and been very blessed to grow since then. And our mission is to be, kind of by MSPs for MSPs, and to make the world's servers uncrashable. Turns out that's a little harder than it sounds, but it's a mission that we continue to make progress on every day. So some of the behind the scenes why we're here. So we really kind of dug deep. We spent months interviewing our top MSPs, conducted research, both quantitative and qualitative analysis, and a whole bunch of 12-letter words to basically try to understand what will help you the most. And then we realized when we learned that we needed to start with a clean sheet of paper. We couldn't say what we have is pretty good, let's add a feature or two. We needed to, in some cases, throw out the things that we thought were either good or even great, and we doubled down on giving you the solving the thing that you told us was most important. And so the number one problem, it turns out, was managing backups. They're just incredibly hard to manage, and to kind of drill down a little further, we've got Sam here, who basically is talking about it just takes up so much time. It's the number one challenge. So even if you're managing it well, it's incredibly time consuming. We have some of our partners that have, one or more full-time people dedicated to that. And so it's obviously critical that you manage them well. And we'd all like to probably spend less time doing so. Another partner of ours, Rob, said, look, if I'm being really candid, there's days it doesn't get done. I believe he's probably in the majority of our partners where they don't have a full-time person dedicated to it, and it's everybody's job or on one person's part-time job. And when things break and fires happen, it doesn't always get done. And if that happens, you're not sure where you are. So we really heard the pain there, and we said, how do we roll up our sleeves and again throw everything out? So how do you manage your backups without losing sleep, right? Great question. And it turns out there's a few things that we're going to cover here because it's a multifaceted problem. But the first is custom notifications. So daily digest email, push alerts, a ton of other things. So the main kind of feedback we got is I want to get one email, no matter how many devices I have, no matter how many customers I have. So now you can see from the screenshot here, you can get a single daily digest email. Another popular option is to send errors or failures directly to your ticketing address. You can do both, so you can get a daily digest and send tickets to your ticketing system separately. All kinds of push alerts. So we got iOS and Android apps, text messaging, even a Chrome extension that can alert you right in your browser. So we're going to talk more about all the information you need to keep a handle on, but the number one thing was, how do we give you the alerts exactly where, when, and where you need them, and kind of reduce the noise. So the second part was kind of custom reporting, and in some cases customer facing. And we realized a number of you guys do quarterly business reviews with your clients. Maybe it's semi-annual, maybe it's quarterly, but you do some kind of review, and you might want to include how you're doing for them. So whether you want to use this internally or with your customers, you have the functionality to restrict that to a single customer, or look at all of your customers and run customer reporting. So date-based on any range. So whether you're going to review the last day, week, month, quarter, year, all time that we have this history, you can do that. You can dump that out to a PDF that makes you look good. You can dump it out to a CSV and really analyze further. What I'm showing here is reporting on statistics. In other words, the number of successes, failures, warnings, and other statuses. You can also report on the actual activities, which would mean the subjects of the outcomes of the backups. What happened? Did you resolve them? So a little more granular than the actual numbers. So however you want to get to it, however you want to present it and make it look, we want to give you the information to present to your boss, to present to your customer, to your team, to understand if this is working and how well it's working. And is it working now better than it was last month or last quarter? So now you can do this with the clickable button. Huge change. Let's dig into what we're kind of calling high res or reporting. So, so by that, before we even get into that, we need to talk about the best practices for monitoring DR. There's a lot more going on with DR than there is with than most other types of backups. And before we get into that, I wanted to talk about something that's kind of common to our reporting. One is it's built with what I call a Deadman Switch, and what I mean by that is that your reporting system here is going to alert you if something does not happen. So you don't have to rely on the system to send you an email. It's set up that if it doesn't get notification of success or a notification of a warning or some other outcome, it will alert you. So the web-based reporting system knows all of the devices. It even covers, edge cases like I set up a backup account and I never actually installed it or did anything with it. Well, it can still alert you. Second reason is we want you to be able to distrust your hardware, because you can use your own hardware, NAS or BDR server or what have you, and kind of bring your own hardware. We want you to be able to use things that are sometimes cost effective, and they're not always the most reliable. Even if they are in most cases, you don't want to trust your data that's sitting there for years and years on that device and blindly trust it at least. And then three is we want to engineer this to expect failure. Things happen. And we know you can respond when they do, but we've got to have a system that's built with best practices so that it alerts you to any possible failure. So it doesn't mean that we're perfect, but let me unpack what that really means and what the best practices are. So now you can monitor the local backups of ShadowProtect from our web portal and be alerted. And so you can see every single device, and so you can see if you had 10 servers at a client, you could see if one's failing and 9 are succeeding or what have you, and get more granular than you had before. Secondly, we have a monitor that is for ShadowProtect issues, and I'm going to kind of unpack that a little bit more. That's going to check for anything that could happen regarding ShadowProtect, and we'll talk about the detailed reports and what could happen. And then image manager issues, so also very similar. Both of those Shadow Protect and image manager issues are not reports that you'll see on a daily basis, not when things are working normally, but they're both looking for any possible outcome that could ruin your day or ruin your ability to restore your clients. So everything from re-verifying the data periodically to doing image consolidation, screenshots, low disk space warnings, a ton of things. And so on the far left, you've got did my local backup run, and on the far right, we're of course monitoring backups to the cloud. And that's the things people are probably most used to. The far left and far right of being I'm monitoring my local backups and I'm monitoring cloud backups. The things in the middle really give you the granular detail to know without a shadow of a doubt that this will work in any scenario, both local recovery and cloud recovery. So the kind of details of our kind of high-res reporting for DR is, like I was saying before, kind of full stack monitoring of Shadow Protect and Image Manager. That means that we can detect low disk space. We can you can do screenshot test boots of your VMs if you choose to. If you have a BDR, and those will actually show up in the portal, so you can monitor those from this web-based dashboard. And of course, you can monitor Servosity Unlimited in addition to your local backups. So I'm going to save some of this for when we get into the demo, and that's where we'll spend more of our time. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. So what you see here is I'm actually in our portal, and I'm drilled into a particular customer, and so at any time you'll see a couple things that might be new. You're used to adding a backup account. There is the SMTP info that we provide for you, and there's also the Check Central dashboard. So when I click on that, I get a dashboard, meaning all the accounts and all the checks that are going on for that particular company. And so this is a read-only view, basically a unique URL that you could share with your customer or with anybody on your team. And anytime you refresh this, you'll know the status of it. And so this is kind of the least you could do. If you do nothing, this is already set up for you. And so this is all built in. Now, before I kind of proceed and go into a little more details, what is all this and what does all this mean? So obviously, we've got the number of success warning and error conditions at a high level. This would be across this customer, all their devices, as well as the same type of dashboard. And then I wanted to just talk through the high-res reporting at a customer level before we jump into the dashboard and show you what multiple customers looks like. So this is my I'm backing up a single server, and this is my local Shadow Protect backup. So I can see if it's working or if it's not working. I can also see if my offsite or cloud backup is working. And so I can see if one's failing and the other's working, vice versa. The other things that I was telling you are the Shadow Protect issues or image manager notifications. They also show up separately. So one thing I wanted to point out is this is a single DR server at a company. And if I had 10 servers, I'd have 9 more lines right here to show you the status of each server. But the image manager and Shadow Protect issues and notifications and the offsite, you'd only have one. So the idea is we want to give you granular status on the status of every single Shadow Protect backup locally, but we want to consolidate all the warnings and notifications that Shadow Protect or Image Manager can generate. And that way, hopefully, it's the best of both worlds, knowing exactly what happened and why. Now, that being said, this is what happens if you do absolutely nothing. What you're going to want to do is drill in and do a lot more. So in order to do this, you're going to need to set up your account. We already have a preset account with our partner, which is called Check Central, and so at the end we'll talk how you can get started and get access to this immediately. But this, if you get your own login credentials, then now is where the power's unlocked. Now we can really dig in and understand what's going on. So so now I'm on my dashboard as an MSP, you can see I've got 10 success, 1 warning, 14 error. If I click on those, it'll basically collapse that to show me just those. The top right here, I'm going to see any current issues. An hour ago, 3 hours ago, however recent it is. And so if you have multiple issues, it will end up, um, you know, limiting that to a certain size. And then if I scroll down, I can basically see my Servosity internal company is expanded and all my other companies are collapsed. So at a high level, I can see that Blizzard is working well, but Microsoft is failing, and so on and so forth. So if I want to understand, I can expand it and get into this and understand why is Microsoft failing. So you've got the ability to collapse all the groups or expand all the groups and kind of drill in. So let me get a little deeper. Ton of power here. You can do really as much as you'd like to do. Let me cover where I would start. First is, did my local backup run of this server for this company? Well, I can see that on the 30th it ran. And if I want to click that report, I can see that 11 backups ran and 11 were successful. If it's anything less than 100% success, it will turn a different color than green. So I can see that at the click of a button. However, today is when I got an error. So I can go in here and see the severity. So in this case, I got 1 failure out of 11 backups. So if I was running hourly backups, for example, it'll be your call to say, is that acceptable? Is it a transient issue? Is that an issue I want to investigate further? From there, you can go and look at the ShadowProtect issues, and this will allow you to see more detail. So when I click on it, this is going to catch any issues that come in. So if there is a failure, it gives me the full report. So it tells me that I try to take a local backup on a certain machine, and I tried to save it here. And basically what we did to cause this to fail, just for the sake of this, is we removed the ability to back up to this location. So it's saying it's missing the chain, it's missing the data, that sort of thing. This would be the case if your NAS went offline or something like that. So all these reports are stored for as long as you'd like to access them, and you can go back to different days. So I can go back a few other days and see, okay, that's when that happened. So I can see if it's been happening for a number of days and kind of get an idea of when the issue started. One other thing I wanted to point out, so I know I have a local backup failure. 10 out of 11 work, but that's not good enough. So I can go in here and see the details like I just showed you. However, let's say you started your morning and you see the failure and you remote into the server and you fix the issue. Maybe it was low on space or the NAS was offline. You can click the checkbox here to resolve it. So we think this is kind of cool. Basically, I can mark it as a success. Now, I can mark it as a warning or I can mark it as pause, whatever I'd like to do. But let's say I mark it as success. I can put in a message and say, rebooted NAS or whatever it was. And if I hit save, I can send the notifications to authorized users if I'd like to. But if I hit save, what that's going to end up doing is marking mine to green, but with the notification. So now you can tell that it wasn't green, and if I click on it, you can read my comment and you can see the status and you can see who did it. So this is multiple users. So if you want to have different engineers working on this, you can see who marked something as successful. So now you can not only see your reporting, you can actually take action and make notes. And then, if you want to have a goal of have everything green by the end of the day, you can just change it to green instead of waiting for tomorrow's backup. So tons of information and capabilities here. To my right, we have the ability to pause a backup, which you wouldn't normally do. You would only, or pause the alerting for a backup. And so I would caution you to not do that. The only time you would ever pause the alerting would be if you're going to do maintenance for a weekend or something and you don't want to see the failure alerts. The problem if you pause it, though, is we'll never alert you on that device again until you unpause it. It will report as paused, but it's something I would recommend doing with caution. And then finally, we have the ability to export or save any of these reports as a PDF. So I'm going to unpack that a little further, but all of this is exportable in that manner. So we see my local backups. I found the issue. I marked it as resolved. I can also go in here and see how my cloud backups look. So my Servosity backups, exactly what happened, how much was uploaded, the data size, etc. And then there's a link to the full PDF here. So if I want to read the line by line detail, it's right here in the attachment. This is the same things you've been getting via email. Now it's all consolidated for you. And then the last thing I wanted to point out is image manager notifications. We talked about that something can fail to verify. So we've got an example here of where image manager did say that it had an error doing advanced verify. So so you can kind of get in a more granular reporting. Here's one where it was resolved. As you can see, it was marked resolved based on the time. Another feature that I wanted to point out is the ability to monitor screenshot from screenshot verification from our web portal. So this is exactly what it's in the email, and you can actually see, in this case, my system was still booting, so I would want to set my settings to wait to take the screenshot to a little bit later. But this would send you an email of your desktop wallpaper. It would send you an email of a blue screen if that happened. So all of that comes in by default. Another thing that we want to point out is that particular screenshot is set as a warning because we want you to view it and decide if that's acceptable or not. So if you need to move the time back and consider that warning, great. If you consider that acceptable, you can go in and mark it as a success and let others know. So the idea is this is where you can start as kind of your single sort of source of truth and kind of know everything's managed. So I can do that for any of my companies, look at a single company, look at all my companies. I've got this, kind of global dashboard view of everything. Well, that's great. We've given you all kinds of insights. So now there are hundreds of emails coming in for a particular company to our system. But the last thing you want to do is get hundreds of emails, especially for a single company. So you have the ability to, of course, set your notifications. So as you go in here, you can see we can email you, we can text you, we can do push notifications, and you can get any of those daily digest warnings, failures, unmatched, which essentially means that it's sending an email that for a device or that we don't recognize. And so you can customize this exactly how you'd like. So if you want to get a daily digest email, that's great. If you want to set up an email address for your ticketing system and send only failures, or do both of those. All of this is up to you. Another thing that I wanted to mention is we do have the ability to do the push notifications. And so in that, you can set up your mobile device, you can set up your iOS apps, and actually decide what you want to get. So so if you want to use the iOS or Android app, if you want it to text you, there's a couple apps if you might already have pushover and so forth that it's integrated with. So there's tons of ways of getting push alerts, but you can get a single daily digest or kind of just the right amount. So this is going to be the case for any of your alerting, not just DR, but standard backup or professional backup or Office 365 or what have you. You can dial in the alerting to kind of fit exactly what you're looking for. And then lastly, I want to touch on the ability to pull up statistics. So statistics is kind of your custom reporting. It's what we talked about a little bit earlier in the slides around how do I run reports for my boss, for my team, for my clients. So this is your answer. So we'll kind of scroll down to what this looks like. If you notice, you have the ability to filter, save as PDF, and save as CSV. So this would immediately dump out a CSV file or a PDF. And you can see, for Servosity demo local backup, 33 activities, 21 success, 12 failure. So you can start to get an idea of how well things are working. And you can see it even summarizes it for the company. So you can understand how that company is working. Finally, we even summarize that for you as a partner. So I'm set up as a partner, just like you would be. You can see how many of each you've gotten and kind of understand why. That's great. Probably more importantly, I can filter to the last 7 days just by clicking that button. I can click any button preset I'd like, last year, this year. I can also just pick calendar dates. If I want 10 days, I can go in here and pick in the calendar and choose whatever I like. Probably more applicable to you is you can filter by a check, which would be a certain device. So here's all my devices I have access to. So if I want to report on a single server, if I want to report on a single company, I can constrain that just to Servosity internal. And finally, I can even report only failures or only warnings or all successes. So you can get as granular as you'd like on the reporting here and kind of dump out statistics. We have the ability to report on activities as well. Um, so you can get a little more granular view. So for example, if I want to look at my local backup, I can click on that particular device and I can see kind of summarized information. But if I scroll down, I can actually see a real quick view of how many days have I been getting the error and what's the subject of those. And I can go and view more activity histories where I can run, again, custom-based reports. So the goal here is how do I get all the information I'd like, and how do I spend as little time as I need to getting that. And so we want you to have a great understanding of exactly what's going on. And then you can really filter this at any level. So this is your dashboard as an MSP. You can see everything. Filter is what I mentioned, so I'm getting everything. If I want to take out the successes, then that one click took away successes. It still shows there, but it took them out of this view here or collapsed them. So I can easily filter to exactly what I'd like to see, and I can filter this across company or whatever you'd like to see. So this is kind of your single source of truth. So whether it's a file backup, if you're doing a file backup, it's going to look like this. You're going to have, just to give you some more context, if it's not DR, you're going to have one check per account. If it's DR, you could have several because we have more granular reporting or high-res reporting for DR. If this was, a pro or a standard or Office 365, you'll have this one report. So I can go and view that report, or I can view an older report, and all the other activities I was showing you, I can view them as well. So I'm one click away from viewing the overview. I'm one click away from viewing that PDF and saving that. And so furthermore, I can actually hit forward and have it emailed out to somebody else, to a customer, to somebody else on my team, whatever I'd like to do. So I really have the ability to customize this at an incredibly granular level for my customers and for you. So I guess, to kind of summarize where we are now, we want you to be able to slice and dice your dashboard. If you notice your dashboard's got a refresh button, so I can hit that and it'll refresh in case there's any new notifications that have come in. I have the ability to say if my entire dashboard is a PDF, and that includes anything that you have filtered. So I can collapse my filters. I can collapse my groups. And this gives me a really consolidated view of who's red and who's green. And then I can start, drilling in and seeing why are they red. And remember, this particular one, we show red when there was 10 successes. But if there's any failures or warnings, we're not gonna show green. So we're capturing all the ShadowProtect emails with all the information that they send into one global view. We're keeping all the history so that you can report on it, export it, and we're making everything a click away. So in terms of what do you need to kind of take advantage of this, it's integrated to Servosity. So all of your offsite backups, whether they be standard or professional or any of our DR accounts, you'll see the status of the offsite backups, and you don't have to do anything. That's built in. However, you do want to set up your user, your Check Central user, and put in the SMTP information that's now in our portal into Image Manager and to ShadowProtect. And so we'll talk more about, we've got knowledge base articles on both of those, and I'd be happy to show you guys how to do that. But to take advantage and get this granular reporting, you just have to paste in some information to the SMTP configuration of ShadowProtect and of Image Manager. If you do both of those, all the all the information I'm showing you here is already preset. So you really just have a one-time setup of pasting in the SMTP information. We now provide that for you. That's part of our new release, or what we called our Bowser release. And so it's kind of batteries included in terms of SMTP information. All this reporting is all set. The flip side of that is if you haven't set this up and you go in, you're going to show your offsite backup status accurately, and you're going to show all these other checks, local backups and image manager, as red. However, they're going to be red based on time-based. So my example here has a clock face, and basically when I drill into it, it's saying it's overdue. What that means is we never got an email telling us anything. So that is usually bad. That means the server's not sending us emails, which means the backups are probably not working. Now, we don't know if the internet's off or the server's off, or what the situation is, but we know that you should be getting reporting and you're not. So in a normal situation, once you set this up, you don't want to see that. However, if you're just getting started, we did set up all of these different checks for you so your life is easier and pre-configured. However, it's entirely normal when you first set this up that everything except the offsite would be red, because until you set up the SMTP information in and put that into ShadowProtect and Image Manager respectively, each of those will show red, essentially as overdue, because we've created them and basically told our system to watch for emails to come from those. And so if it gets all those emails, then you'll have a system that looks like this. But just know when you start, it may start out as red in that category, even if it's succeeding. But you'll be able to see that it's time-based and not an actual error. And of course, if you'd like to go ahead and mark, once you set it up, mark one of them as resolved if you know it worked today, you have that option. So just to kind of recap here, if you want the detailed or high-res reporting on ShadowProtect Image Manager, you're going to need to set up your Check Central user and input the SMTP information. If you want the daily digests or push notifications, you're going to set up a Check Central user and head over to notifications and choose those appropriately. And if you don't need to do any of those, you'll still have a read-only view of your dashboard that you can click into. You just won't be able to mark actions as resolved. You won't be able to set up advanced reporting or daily digests. So all of this is built in and set up for you, and you can use it if you're on version 7 or 8 immediately. And so take advantage of it. I urge you to take advantage of this as much of this as possible, because this is basically a culmination of our over a decade of working directly with ShadowProtect at the highest levels, working with hundreds and hundreds of MSPs and tens of thousands of servers, and so server backups. So this is part reporting system and part best practices. You do have the ability to customize it if this doesn't exactly fit your workflow, so that's great, but we really try our hardest to make the defaults built in. If you're like most people, you're monitoring your offsite backup today, and you're probably not monitoring your local ShadowProtect backups. Maybe you're monitoring those. If you're like the vast majority, you're probably not monitoring Image Manager or ShadowProtect detailed exceptions. So they both have a lot of additional alerts, everything from low disk space to verification errors. And this is the way to know if any of those has an issue. So I definitely urge you to take advantage of this if you're doing any DR. If you're not doing any DR, I certainly urge you to take advantage of the notifications. So with that, let's turn back over to the webinar and kind of proceed from there. So a ton of new features that are in here, a lot more than I'm able to go over in this time. So like I said, the SMTP credentials are built in. We have completely custom APIs. If you don't like what you have now, you can use this to build anything you'd like. Everything from a Chrome extension to native apps. So tons of new features that I wanted to mention and cover in this webinar and demo. With that being said, This is where we want to hear from you. Go ahead and submit your questions. We really want to hear what you have to say. We know from our early adopters that they've said this has been incredible to them, and we'd love to see what questions you have about using it and about adopting it, or any other questions you have for us. So with that, Brent, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Damien. Yeah, we got a good bit of great questions to get through today. Again, if we don't get to all the questions today, we're going to be following up with these separately afterwards. But I do appreciate everybody submitting some questions. And feel free to, it's still open, so feel free to submit any questions while we're going through these. First off, we're going to start off with a question from Abdul. He asks, do we need to create login credentials for Check Central?
So the short answer is you don't need to, but you can. So if you create no credentials at all, you can access the dashboards that Damien was showing, the read-only dashboards to view what has been, what we've received, and that's it. To really get into the powerful stuff and setting it up yourself and marking checks as successful or really viewing the details, then you can either create an account or you can use the one that we've created for you. So we have already created one using your partner email account that we have on file. So if you just go to the Check Central Forgot Password, there'll be a link to that at the end of this slideshow. But if you go to the Check Central Forgot Password page, put in your partner email, and we will send you a link to create your password, and you'll log in and have access immediately. If, for example, you want to use another email, like Damien was saying, using your ticketing system as an email address, or adding additional users within your company, or even your customers as users, you can just email our support at servosity.com right now. Send us the email address and name of the person that you want to have added, and whether or not they're one of your partner employees or whether they're one of your customers' employees. And if it is a customer, make sure you give us their company name so we can lock them into just that company. Finally, if you want to add these all yourself, there's not a way to do that right at this moment, but in the next few weeks to a month, we plan to be adding that to our portal, where you'll be able to actually go in and add your own users.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. We're going to go over to Rob now. He's got a question about the current reporting and status page. What's going to happen? What does this mean for the current reporting page?
Okay. So, yeah, most of you know that reporting.servosity.com is the status page that we've had for a while now, where it gives you the ability to see just your Servosity backups. It does not have any ShadowProtect reporting on it, and that's the main reason that we've decided to partner with Check Central. We had intended to expand it to include ShadowProtect notifications, but once we met with Check Central and met this great bunch of people that have been super helpful in partnering with us, we decided rather than reinventing the wheel, let's use their already world-class notification system and integrate that into Servosity for you. Now, I do see you mention the one thing that you don't get with Check Central is the currently running backups. You can still view those. If you log into our support portal at preview.servosity.com and click on the backup account name, that will take you to a page where you have the live activities option, which lets you bring up even more detail than you could see on that reporting page about the backup job that's in progress.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Okay, going to go back to Abdul. He has another question. This one is there any sort of user's guide for the dashboard?
Yeah, absolutely. So our knowledge base is located at support.servosity.com. There's a lot of information there. If you search for Check Central, it will give you a whole list of different knowledge base articles that we've made with screenshots, both how to set up the reporting for ShadowProtect and Image Manager, just a user guide of what is Check Central, some details about what all the different icons mean, what all the terminology is, things like that. And you can find all of that at support.servosity.com. Either search for Check Central or go under installation/troubleshooting and choose the Check Central category.
Okay, great. Thanks. All right, now we're going to go to Robert. He has a question asking, are screenshot verifications only available on cloud images?
So the screenshot verification is part of the image manager software. So any ShadowProtect images, any servers that you're backing up with ShadowProtect, whether they're VMs, whether they're physical servers, when they're all local, you can set up Advanced Verify in Image Manager, and it will send that notification to Check Central with the screenshot. I'm not quite sure if that's what you mean by cloud images. If I haven't answered your question, please go ahead and ask another one with a little more clarification.
All right, great. Thanks, Jeff. Now we're going to go over to Phil, and he asks, do I have to set this up on every single computer?
So currently, if you want to take advantage of the ShadowProtect and Image Manager pieces of this reporting, you will have to go in and set up the SMTP server settings as well as the from email and choose which reports you want to have sent to Check Central. That's not something that you have to do, though. We automatically set up any Servosity offsite backups. So if you're running the Servosity client just as a file backup or an Exchange or other application backup, we set all that up for you automatically. You don't have to do anything to set up to receive those. You do have to go into ShadowProtect and Image Manager and configure that right now. We are looking into possible ways to either have a script that you can run with an RMM tool or possibly a little registry key that you can add in order to make that a little more automated where you don't have to copy and paste the data in. But right now it is just a simple matter of clicking that DR SMTP info button and copy and paste the data. And we've got very comprehensive guides at support.servosity.com that tell you exactly where to paste everything in.
Cool, thanks, Jeff. All right, we're going to try to get to one more here from Steve, and he's asking, can I get this set up on a knock screen?
Yes, so Binary Fortress are the people who make Check Central. They also make a product called Cloud Show, and for one device, it's a free product, and it's integrated with Check Central. And basically, Cloud Show allows you to install their application on an Android device like Android TV or Chrome Stick, Fire TV Stick, or any Windows computer, and allows you to actually set up a dashboard where it auto refreshes whenever you choose, every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, and displays a dashboard of your customer's data. So sort of like that read-only dashboard that we saw earlier, you'll see the same thing on a knock screen, just sitting there the whole time, refreshing every 5 minutes and keeping you up to date on what your customer's backups look like.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Jeff. All right, one more from Abdul. If ShadowProtect is running on a server without internet connectivity, will it be able to provide a report in Check Central?
That's a good question. So unfortunately, no. If a customer is running on just a standalone server with no internet, we do have to have an SMTP connection to send emails out to the internet in order for Check Central to access it. Now, if there's a way that you can route that internally to where the SMTP port is delivered over a local network connection or something like that directly to your own SMTP server, you can use that instead of ours. But in order to use our server, it would have to have a direct internet connection.
All right, great. Thanks for that, Jeff. All right, I think that does it for all the questions. That's all we have time for now. Closing up today, we're just going to send you off with a couple of instructions on how to get started. So first, you can visit Check Central and reset your password as long as you're already started with Servosity at that link over to the right /SVT now. Also, if you want to dive in a little bit deeper, you can access our knowledge base, and that's at the bottom right link right there, SVT support. We appreciate you guys all coming today and giving us your attention. And again, we'll be following up with any unanswered questions separately afterwards. And this will all be sent to you in a recording and will be posted to YouTube as well. But yeah, thanks again for everybody attending, and we hope you have a great day.